All right, we're going to go ahead and begin here today. What we're doing is we are going to go over the bell ringer part of the bell ringer, and then we're going to go over more of it tomorrow and today. But we're going to start off going over part of the bell ringer, partly for the ACT, some of the thinking on the ACT here. And so one of the things that helped me, I used to struggle really hard with reading comprehension a little bit. And my method of reading comprehension would be read the sentence and remember everything. And that was not really a good method because it's just hard to remember everything. It's just straight up hard to remember everything. And so now, when I got older, some of the stuff from English class started to connect with me, and I started understanding some things that helped my reading comprehension. And I wish I had known them when I was at LAMP the first time. Okay, and that because it would have made my reading comprehension better. Okay, and this helps with the ACT that we're talking about right now. So that's what I wanted to start off with here. All right, so starters, there's like three things that I want to point out with the ACT and with reading comprehension. So let's go ahead and begin with this. And so let's go ahead and start with this. First off, is that every sentence is a complete what? Do not shut it out. What is every sentence? It is a complete what, Irene? Yeah, it's a complete thought. And you get credit for this because you're going to have participation points for your ACT here on this one here. So every sentence is a complete thought. And the reason why it's important is because when you get to a period, that means that idea is concluded. Okay. And you need to pause to allow yourself to think about that. Okay. Pause for a second. So the periods are actually a second of break. So you allow yourself to identify what it just said. All right. Every sentence has two parts. What are the two parts? Ella Grace. Yeah, a subject and a verb or a predicate. Yes, a subject and a predicate. So, there you are. All right, so a subject and a predicate. The subject is who or what the sentence is about, and the predicate is what the subject is doing. Okay, and you say again, I still don't see how this is helpful. All right, you're going to be 1 second here. The next thing here is the dependent clause. What is a dependent clause? Gabby. Yeah, it's a part of a set of words that can't stand by itself as a sentence. All right. Let me give you credit for that. Why do we have dependent clauses? Amira. Yeah, to add descriptions and modify and make it better and add more additional information here. Let me give you credit for that here. There it is. All right. And so that is what it's for. There are some words that are typical of a dependent clause. All right. And these are really important when I started recognizing these. What are some words that are typically signal a dependent clause? Right over here. Yes, I love all those ones you just said. Like, when, since, because, if, as, all those words. When you see those words, especially if they start a sentence off, that means this is not the main part of the sentence. That is a dependent clause. The main part of the sentence is called the what. Let me give credit for you on that. But what was the main part of the sentence called? Lily. The independent clause. All right. The independent clause. And so if I can identify the independent clause, that's the main part of the sentence. Then I add what's the dependent clause. Then I comprehend a little bit better. Okay. And so number 10, the main part of the sentence is the independent clause. So going over here to the ACT practice passage here. When I read right over here, like this first sentence right here, when I read this first sentence, I start off with this first sentence and I see the word if. That is like an orange flag to me. Anytime I see the word if, that's an orange flag, and it's like saying, hey, this is a what clause? Dependent. And when I read a dependent, I know that that is not the main part of the sentence. So I put when I say, okay, this what I'm reading right now is not the main part of the sentence. I put that in the back of my mind and know that the main part of the sentence is still coming. Okay, the main part of the sentence is still coming. That helps me comprehend the sentence more. Remember, I told you the way I used to read was I tried to just remember everything. Okay, instead, I'm looking for the main part of the sentence, especially when I'm doing informational reading here. And so, for instance, when I read this right here, I'm going to have someone read that for us. Campbell, would you read student 2? All right, Campbell, what is the main part of that sentence? What is the main part of that sentence? So yes, that is the main part of the sentence. They are composed of the main substance. If, now add that dependent clause, if they have any three or more of the 5 properties in common. If 2 samples have 3 of the 5 copies. This makes me comprehend deeper, okay? Instead of trying to, that old way of remembering every detail. And I've worked with students for many years, and I see them and I'm like, oh, they're killing me because they can't remember anything when they read. And again, the point is that looking for the independent clause, because the ACT is notorious for having complex sentences. And what a complex sentence is, it means it starts with a dependent clause, okay? A dependent clause oftentimes, and then it gives the independent clause. And you're like, oh, why are you telling me this? All right. That's what we're trying to show right here. Next one, we're going to do one more of those here. Rudy, would you read student 3?
If 2 samples have the same mass, volume, and density, they're composed of the same substance. If 2 samples,
just read that's all right here. All right. What was the main part of the sentence?
They're composed of the same substance.
Yes, and again, and now add the dependent clause if they are what?
If they have the same mass, volume, and density.
That makes so much sense to me. Okay, that makes so much sense to me, because if I just remember if they did this, then I don't know. That's not that can't stand by itself. But if I if I know the main part and then add the dependent part, that makes sense to me. All right. So that's what we're trying to show with this here is that, again, I wish somebody said, hey, Chris, just chill out, look for the independent clause, then add the dependent clause. That's all you have to do. Really. All right. Another example here. This is kind of like we're going to have like a dependent clause here. So if you'll read this one for us, Jennifer. Number 1. Okay. Where is the main part of that sentence? Yes, the same substance composes both of the samples in which of the following pairs? What is, so very good. Let me give you credit for that. Esmeralda, what is based on students 1 explanation? Is that an independent clause or a dependent clause? Can it stand by itself? And so based on student 1's explanation would be a dependent clause here. It cannot stand by itself. So again, if I recognize that, it sounds like so going from this, oftentimes I say, oh, that's a dependent clause right there, automatically, or a prepositional phrase, a long prepositional phrase. Those things are not the main part of the sentence. The main part is coming up. And if I recognize that, I can read better and comprehend better. All right. That's what we're trying to tell you with this here. One last on this here. What was the one I was going to say? Okay, now looking at these questions on ACT, when I see a long question, okay, I'm in a hurry. Okay, when I see a long question like number 12, all right, when I see a long question like that, I don't read the whole. In fact, all right, in fact, Ashton, would you read number 12 for us?
Consider the statement. Two samples that have the same mass, volume, density, and boiling point are close to the same substance, even if the two samples have different melting points. Which of students 2 and 4, if either, would be likely to agree with the statement?
Now, my old way, I'm remembering everything, okay, with this here. And that's kind of related to this, but this is a little different strategy. What I would have done right here is because it's a question, the point of a question is to try to answer the question, okay, and get it correct. I don't read the if it's more than one sentence, I read the last sentence first because that's the point, that's the question, and then I read the first part of the question. All right, because then it tells me, okay, they're asking me what, and so read it again, Ashton, and read the last sentence first, and then read the top.
Which of students 2 and 4, if either, would be likely to agree with the statement? Consider the statement. Two samples that have the same mass, volume, density, and boiling point are both the same substance, even if the two samples have different methods.
All right, so that makes sense to me. Okay, they're asking, would 2 or 4 agree with this statement? And here's the statement: if they have the same mass, density, and boiling point, they are the same substance. It doesn't matter about the melting point. Okay, who would agree with that possibly? I already know what the question wants. I got the point already. All right, instead of having to remember what was the statement again. No, I didn't have to do that because I knew why they were telling me the statement. All right. And so when I see a question that's more than one sentence long, I read the second part of the question here, the end part. All right. Do number 10 over here for us. Number 10, Lewis. Nope. Read the last sentence first. Go ahead, read the whole thing now.
Consider the claim that two samples having the same density will all be composed with the same substance bodies of the other 4 properties.
Read that and again.
Which of the students then would you like to?
So again, if you have the same density, it means you're the same stuff. It doesn't matter the other 4 values. And which students would agree with it? I know what it's talking about. Imagine that. I can understand it really quick. All right. And so that's the point of what we're trying to do. And again, that's what I'm going to be doing right here. So what, I'm going to pause it for a second. All right. So going over this real quick. So going over this, and again, here's the thinking that I'm doing. The rest of the semester, I'm going to give you one ACT and then one practice passage. One ACT, practice passage, and then one we're going to go over the next week. After next semester, I am not giving you, we're not going to go over them every week. We're going to do a new one. All right. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time going over it. We're just going to do one every week because I want you to get, I think practice is the most important thing, but I'm giving you the wisdom from my past experience with all this. I know some of you are doing real well with them, and that's great. I did scale them 14 to 15 points. All right. And so if you got one wrong, you still made a 100. Okay. The answers are, by the way, let me go ahead and share the answers. I'll have to do it this way here because I left my phone in the car. All right. So number 1 is C. Number 2 is D or J. You need to have correct answers for your notebook. Number 3 is C. Number 4 is D or J. Number 5 is A. Number 6 is F or A. And number 7 is A. All right. So you have the correct answers for those, so you know which ones are which. All right. First off, what type, and again, you get your credit by answering questions for this today, because I give all these will count as a as a quiz grade when I add them up. So your credit is by answering as many questions as you can. If you don't answer as many questions, you won't get as much credit. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to give you a heads up on. All right. And so what type of passage is this? This was a which type of passage? Ali. This is a conflicting scientist passage. And what is the strategy for a conflicting scientist passage? Read everything. It is. It's a read everything passage. It's not, you have to read everything. Okay. I don't tell you that on any of the others, but this one I do tell you to do that. Okay. And you only get one of these per ACT science. All right. And so we're going to look at the first paragraph. And so if you'll read the first paragraph for us, Frida.
Teacher provided with table below to students in class output. The table gives 5 properties for each sample A through E. The students will have to see that each sample is completely solid through the composed of a single hypothetical.
All right. What did it say? Yeah, different samples. That's exactly what it is. And that each sample was a solid cube of a pure substance. That's correct. Now, when I look at a table like this, first off, what is an independent variable? Don't shut it out. What is an independent variable? Mm-hmm. Yes, they change on purpose. All right. Esmeralda, where do I find the independent variable on a table like this? The left side. All right, the left side is correct. All right, you find the independent variable on the left side. The dependent variable is what? What's the definition of dependent variable? Right here. Yeah, it changes as a result of the independent variable. All right. Anise, where is the dependent variable on a table? Yep. All right. And if I look at this table, I can get this. Again, sample A and B, they seem to have the same things of everything except for the melting point and boiling point. Okay. All right. When I look at samples C and D, they have everything the same. Everything the same. When I look at samples E and F, they have everything the same also. When I look at samples G and H, they have everything the same except for melting point and boiling point. All right. And so again, I know this experiment already based on what I did. They changed the sample, they measured these substances, and I know what the results are mostly. Okay. All right. Next thing here. Read our next sentence here. Would you do that? What's Charlie?
The teacher asked 4 of the students to explain how these data could be used to predict which samples are comprised of the same substance.
Okay. And so how can you use this data to tell if it's the same substance? That's exactly what it's supposed to say here. All right. And reading student 1. I read student 1 for us. Rudy.
If 2 samples have the same values for all 5 properties, they are composed of the same substance. 2 samples have different values for any of the 5 properties, they are composed of different substances.
And so the beauty of those, again, when I look at that and I see those words that we were just talking about, if, when, since, as, all those words, when I see that, that tells me that's not the main part of the sentence and that the main part is coming afterwards. And that helps navigate to me in my comprehension. Okay. I love something that helps me navigate my comprehension. All right, and that's beautiful. I didn't understand that when I studied English, that's one thing that would help me with my reading comprehension. And so that's something that we can say here. All right, we're going to stop with that right now. We're not going to do anything else other than that. I just wanted to tell you a couple things that I knew from these things, and I'm not going to spend a lot more time. Okay.